This goes live. Okay, so we have a lot of people in the room and we have a lot of people online. So now we get to the difficult situation where you have to try and, you see, when it's one or the other, when it's all on Zoom or all in people, it's one thing. But when it's half on Zoom and half in real life, then it becomes a challenge. So I'll apologize to half of you if I don't get the balance right. So it's, hold on, trying to... Huh? Not yet, no. We'll have to wait to the end and see how I do. Okay, record. Nope. Why is it not starting to record? There we go. Okay. Hello, Mary. How are you? How is the situation where you are?
Hello?
Hello, Mary. How are you? We said to Hillim for you. How is the situation weather-wise in your house?
Thank you very much. Today was supposed to be very bad, but it wasn't.
Okay.
So,
and your house is okay?
My house is okay. I lost a few shingles, but that's okay.
Okay. But no flooding in your house, at least?
No, not me.
Okay. All right. Well, as I said, I told everybody in shul that you weren't able to come on last week, and we had you in. So we hope you survived the best of the storm. Mary is in California, which seems blighted by the weather. Okay. So, there. Okay. Right. I hope you can see me over there. You guys see, I like the way it's a challenge because it's not just straight ahead, it's over here. So I will, everybody likes to, yes. So I will do my best. Should I mute everybody? Let's see. Let me mute everybody. So hold on. My phone is very strange. It seems to take me ages to, to get the buttons ready. Or could just be, give me a second. There we go. Since they updated the settings on the iPhone, it's been all weird for me anyway. Right. There we go. Mute everybody. Mute all. Okay. Right. I have muted you all, but I'm now allowing you to unmute if you wish. So if anybody wants to unmute and shout out like you can't hear me or anything like that, feel free to do so. Okay, so this week's Parsha is Parsha Shemos, the beginning of the second book of the Torah. This is where things take a turn for the worst, where we end up into slavery. But before we get into Parsha Shemos, I want to share something with you I heard on Motzi Shabbos by Rabbi Yaakov Sadiq, the teacher, the headmaster, principal of the Katz Hillel Day School. They had a Havdalah under the stars for Daniel's class, and that was nice. So, and the blessing, Hamalach HaGoyel. So he said, why, as the question we broached last week, was why does the Torah use, or Yaakov rather, he blessed his children, Simcha Elokim, B'cha Yevarech Yisrael, in you, Ephraim and Manasseh, the Jewish people will be blessed. Simcha Elokim Ephraim and Manasseh, that God should place you like Ephraim and Manasseh, is what most people bless their children on a on a Friday night. So the question is, why Ephraim and Manasseh opposed to anybody else? And we said last week that you have the idea they were born in slavery, they were born in Mitzrayim, they were born in a place that was out of the Jewish area without Yaakov and all these people, like the Shvatim had Yaakov and so on and so forth. So it was a bit easier for them to be Jewish, whereas Ephraim and Manasseh, they did it in a strange land. But he said he saw Pshat differently. That is, Ephraim and Manasseh were the first people certainly being counted in the Torah, the first brothers that actually got along. Because you have the first ever brothers in history was Cain and Hevel. Of course, we know that Cain killed Hevel, so that didn't go very well. That wasn't a good start. We know, of course, right, Yishmael and Yitzchak, they fought. Yitzchak, Yishmael, but Tzachek, Yitzchak Beno, they had to get rid of Yishmael. Yaakov and Esau, of course, fought, and he wanted to kill Yaakov. The brothers and Yosef, also there was jealousy. They wanted to kill him, and they threw him away, right? The whole history with the brothers. So you would have thought brothers are not seeming to be destined to get along well, right? You see that now, and more revelations. I spoke about it on Shabbos with Harry and William, and the revelations are coming out again. So you see, brothers don't always get along, there can be a lot of animosity. Whereas Ephraim and Manasseh, they got on perfectly. And the Medrash says they were very good. They were perfect in harmony with each other. So that's the idea that Yaakov was trying to convey. What's the thing most parents want to see in their children? They want to see that they get along. Now, Rabbi Sam is not here, the psychologist, who had a lot of chats about these week's parashas because there's so much psychology and so on in these week's parashas. And he will say that if you want your children to get along, you've got to set the right parameters. We were talking about, he mentioned a few weeks ago to me that how Yaakov himself, we all think about the brothers and the Kesonas Pasim, right? That Yaakov gave this coat of many colors, and that started all the jealousy. But Rabbi Sam pointed out that the jealousy started the week earlier, Parshas Vayishlach, because when he was preparing to meet Esav, Yaakov split. Vayachat says Hayalodim. Yaakov already made a split. He split the sets of children. And what does Rashi say? First of all, Leah, Shvachos, and Rachel was, Yosef was at the very back, says Rashi. Achron Chaviv. The last ones, the ones at the back, were the most precious. So you see already Yaakov, already before this whole incident with giving the coat of many colors to Yosef, he already started it. So sometimes it's the parents don't help themselves or don't help the situation. But that's something Rabbi Sam can talk about more than me. But that's the bracha. B'cha yivarech Yisrael. We want the Jewish kids to be like Ephraim and Manasseh, to get along, to have harmony. And just to digress, I spoke about Hevel. I just thought earlier today that if you look at the beginning of Bereshit, it gives a reason why Cain was called Cain. Cain was the first child ever born in history. Konisi eshes elukim. I've acquired a man. Oh, look, there's a human child I gave birth to. Woo, right? Very amazing thing. But when his brother was born, it says they had another child as Achiv as Havel. But it doesn't say why he was called Hevel. And I thought Hevel is like steam. Here today, gone tomorrow. Steam doesn't last very long. And of course, Hevel, fortunately, did not last very long. I don't know how old he was when he was killed. But he certainly, it could have been 1 day old. Because Hein Gerashta Osi Hayom, right? Cain said, you kicked me out of Gan Eden today. I mean, don't forget they were born already 20, although it says Vahimikates Yomim. Anyway, maybe we'll have to wait for next year's Shia to discuss how old they were, how it all fits in. But anyway, I thought maybe that's why they called him Hevel. You've got to be careful what names you give your children. They called him Hevel, and he didn't last very long. He was like steam. He dissipated, unfortunately, very quickly. But that's something I wanted to share from last week's parasha. Were any of you here at the sisterhood meeting? Right. Okay. So my wife told me a very interesting Bar Torah. So we were looking into it. She wanted to talk about the birthing stool, which is sometimes called the Meshaber, which means an idea of breaking, shibu, broken. And she wanted to explain that sometimes in order to go and have something amazing like children, something has to be broken. Sometimes you have to break things in order to make something new. And she was going to say that's about the sisterhood, right? It's been broken for a couple of years and that's been Meshaber. I don't know. Did she say that? Anyway, was she going to say that? No? Did she say that? Anyway, so that's something I'm going to say. But it's interesting. So we were looking through, because if you look at the word in the Torah, it doesn't say Meshaber. So let's set the stall out. So the Jews are in Egypt and they're having lots of children. Pharaoh is getting very frustrated. And he says to the Mayaldos, the Ivrios, the two Jewish midwives, must have been absolutely run off their feet. If there was only two midwives who were having 6 babies at once. No wonder they had the babies before they got there, right? Because there was only 2 of them. So no wonder they could never get there in time. But anyway, he said as follows: Vayaledchen es Ivrios, or Isen alav noim, when you're giving birth to these children, to the Jewish children, and you see them on the Ovnoyim, we'll just translate that as Ovnoyim for the moment. In Beinu, if it's a child, so kill it. And if it's a child, you should let it live. Now, there's so many things to try and understand before we get to the idea of what is this Ovnoyim. What is this when they're sitting on the Ovnoyim? So the first thing is, what was Paro trying to achieve? What was he trying to achieve with this, number one? And number two, why didn't he just go out and kill them all, right? Kill them. When he complains, he says, why are all these Jewish boys still alive? So what do they answer? They say, the Jewish women are not like the non-Jewish counterparts. Before the midwife gets there, they're already given birth. So the question is, okay, so they could still kill them then, if that's what Paro wanted, right? Why does it have to be done before they were born? And then again, a few psukim later, Paro says, all children are born, throw them into the lake, the river. But all the girls can live. Again, I'll just kill them. Was this funny idea? We'll throw them into the river, number one. And then number two, when Moshe is born, what does his mother do? She puts him into a basket, right? Baby Moshe in the basket, as Lawrence has over there. So the question is that the only person who ever put the child in a basket? Did everyone else do this? Were there just loads of baskets floating around on the Nile? Maybe there were. So why didn't they just kill them? What was this idea that they were trying to do some sort of subterfuge, some sort of hidden secret idea here with the killing of the Jewish children? So actually, I saw something that fits in very well with what we're going to have next week. Next Monday night, a flyer will go out to Mr. Hashem tomorrow. Nir Salomon from the Crib Efrat organization, who came last year, is coming again to speak with this whole presentation about their wonderful organization and so on, about how they saved so many babies and children and so on. And we'll speak about that next week. And the reason why they like to do it around Pashas Shemos is because we have the children being born, we have the midwives and so on. The Shifra and Puah saved the children. So that's the idea, that they want to save the children. However, I saw that actually goes much deeper than that. So we discussed this, I can't remember when, we had the share on abortion about the halakhic implications, and we had the whole thing, is it considered murder? Is it not considered murder? Is it considered something you have to give up your life for? What is the Gedorim of abortion? It's online on YouTube. You can watch that share again. But we said that according to most opinions, it's not, even if somebody has an abortion, it's not considered the same severity as the issa of murdering somebody. And that's why it doesn't carry the death penalty, for instance, right? It's a separate prohibition, but if that, when we discussed that at the time, but it's certainly not the prohibition of murder when it says you should not murder, and so on and so forth. So that's how I saw a pshat that fits it all in with what Mitzrayim were trying to do. Now, we think of Mitzrayim as being this wicked, completely wicked system and country and so on. And I'm not saying they were not wicked. I'm not saying that, for instance, right? Even Paro said that in the end of next week's parsha. Says, "Chatasi, I've sinned, and me and my people are Rishayim." But that's already after they denied 7 of Hashem's miracles. So that's a different thing about why they're called a Russia. But we think of them as being this terrible situation. And another people we think of being exceedingly terrible is Sodom, right? Sodom, that's where I presume, I'm guessing, the idea of sodomy comes from. That's things they practiced over there. And also they had this idea, says the Mishnah, Shali, Shali, Shalosh, Shalach. What's mine is mine, what's yours is yours. They never entertained guests, and you couldn't put anybody up, give anybody a meal. And we always think of them as being terrible. And of course, the Mishnah says, right, this was Anshe Sodom Ro'im. They were evil. But they were a purely capitalist society. They believed 100% in capitalism and no handouts and no welfare system whatsoever. That was a belief system that they had, that they were completely pure capitalists. That's their belief system. And Mitzrayim also, they had their issues, their problems, which we will get into in a little bit, but they still had a system. They still had a belief system. They still had a set of rules. It wasn't complete free for all. And murder was frowned upon in Mitzrayim. What's the biggest proof of this? The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu had to run away. When Moshe Rabbeinu killed, he saw these two people fighting. He saw Mitzri hitting a Jewish person and he killed him. All of a sudden, the next day, somebody says, "Oh, I saw you on the cameras. I was watching the C3 cameras and I saw you kill this guy." What did Moshe Rabbeinu do? He escaped. Why? Because he knew that if he's found guilty of murder, he will get put to death. So there was some sort of laws. There was some sort of, accountability for things in Mitzrayim. So murder was not something that was acceptable there. So for Paro just to come out for no reason and say, "Oh, by the way, we're going to kill all the babies," is not something that would have gone down very well. You kind of say, well, a lot of people over the years have done it, dictators and so on, but that was not something that Mitzrayim were prepared to do. However, again, I'm not trying to get political here. I'm talking about Mitzrayim politics, Egyptian politics. However, abortion was completely legal in Mitzrayim, right? That was how it was. Murder, frowned upon, but abortion was completely legal. So what was Paro trying to achieve? He knew that once the children were born, he had a problem because he can't just go and murder them. So what was he telling these midwives? He says, or Isen al Avnoim, when you sit on the Avnoim, which again, I haven't forgotten, we're going to discuss what these Avnoim actually are. In Ben Uhu Vahamiten Oso. Quickly, kill it. What was he trying to say? Before the baby actually comes out, before it's technically born. So they believed in abortion in the 9th month, right? That's what we can say. And that's why they responded, no, it's too late. By the time we get there, as I said, it was only 2 of them, the whole of Mitzrayim, they're giving 6 babies at a time. Of course, it's going to be late. That's what they said to them. Sorry, we're too late. Before we get there, they've already given birth. And then Paro had to accept it, because Paro accepted it. He didn't complain. He didn't kill Shifra and Puah and say, off with your head. He didn't come. No, he accepted their retort. What was he saying? They said, I'm sorry, they were already born and we couldn't murder them. We missed the window of abortion. They're already born. Too bad. What can we do? And Paro accepted that excuse. So then he had another problem, because then he saw that the children were going to boys, a particular boy born on that day. We'll come back to discuss that in a minute. And he wanted to kill him. But again, they couldn't just kill all the boys because murder and mass murder was frowned upon. So he said, well, we're not going to murder them directly. We'll put them in the river and they will die on their own. Not a nice death, not something that people necessarily will think is nice and calm. Okay. But it wasn't actual murder with your hands. What's the expression I'm looking for? 2nd degree murder, maybe you could say, right? And I think we have a judge, Lawrence. You were a judge, right? I think you said you were a judge. Did you ever do capital cases? No? Okay. Sorry to put you on the spot. But anyway, so you could say, right? Is this like 2nd degree murder, you could say, or some 2nd degree manslaughter? I don't know. Yes, so maybe manslaughter. Okay, so maybe that's the idea. Can't kill them all. So what shall we do? We will put them in the river. And maybe they all put them in baskets. Maybe everybody put them. That's why it wasn't so strange. It was strange that Basia pulled out this one and got stuck, and Hashem made it happen. Maybe everybody did that. That was the idea. We're not going to kill them directly. We'll just put them in the baskets, let them float away, and obviously they will die on their own. But we're not going to actively murder them. However, when it came later on, there's the Medrash, right, that he was told he had to bathe in Jewish blood. But then he had a reason for it. What was that reason? He had tzaras, and this was his only cure. So now it's medical reasons. It's for medical reasons, and he has to slaughter Jewish children for the blood that he needs. Then that's acceptable, right? Because now the king's life is worth a lot of clout. So for that, we're allowed to murder. For that, we're allowed to kill. But just stam murdering somebody, that's not allowed. That seems to be how we can explain this little chapter. So coming back to the Yovnoim. So really it should have said when they were on the mashbeh, which is known as the birthing stool. That's usually how it's interpreted. Apparently, according to Reb Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, who knows these things, the word of Noim only comes once else in the whole Torah, and that's in Pashas. That's in Yirmiyahu, and it refers to a potter's forming chamber pot. So maybe nowadays it's this wheel thing, when you. Oh, I'm going to have an idea of that. But here, I'll read it to you then. Let's read it inside. But yeah, you could say of Noim comes from the word even, stone, which is what I'm going to come to in a minute, because I think, this is my own chat now, that maybe the Torah is trying to hint, because right, they had to make all these stones, right? So they had to do. They had to make stones for the buildings. So maybe that's what the Torah was trying to be hinting to us. Of Noim, Evan, your stones, your slaves, you got to sit on the stones. Remember the stones, even when you're giving birth. But Reb Shimshon Raphael Hirsch links the word of Noim to these forming pots that the potters make. I wonder if nowadays it refers to these wheels that go round and round, and you put your hands on the clay. Certainly when, don't they have like spinning wheels and the clay spins? Huh? potter's wheel. So I think that's what he's referring to. And again, he says it's the idea of forming, that when you're on the birthing stool, this was a pre-labor stool, right? Not the actual delivery stool, but a pre-delivery stool, when somehow they would have to manipulate the form of the baby to enter the birthing canal. Again, this is here. Of Noyim occurs only once in Yirmiyahu 18:3. And there it means a potter's wheel, right? Like you said, thank you. In any case, it is difficult to interpret of Noyim as the platform on which the infant is placed at the birth. For at that stage, the infant has already shown signs of life. And from that narrative, it seems evident that the king intended to have the killing done secretly, so that not even the mother would detect it, like we said, perhaps because they believed in abortion, but they didn't believe in murder. So he goes on to say that this of Noyim is a stool in which it refers to the womb, in which the infant's movements advance him towards birth. So he doesn't translate it as the stool of when they're actually giving birth. He gives it this idea of somehow manipulating the baby to come out prior to birth. Maybe some sort of massage. I don't know what they would do in those days. And therefore, that's when he wanted the killing to take place. That's when he wanted the killing to take place. So according to Reb Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, he says it's not the birthing stool. It was an earlier process before birth, because they wanted to kill the babies in utero before they actually came out. So that puts a whole different perspective on this idea of killing the Jewish babies. But in any way, it did work, Baruch Hashem, because of course, the Torah says they feared Hashem. So even though they did get there early, they allowed the babies to be born. And then, of course, they tried a second idea of throwing them into the sea. And again, that didn't work either. Well, it may have worked, unfortunately, for a lot of children. But Moshe Rabbeinu, he was saved. Now, it's interesting. I mentioned this, I think, on Shavuos. We talk about dates and mazel, and things are very important, which we're going to come on to in a minute about Mitzrayim. When was Moshe Rabbeinu born? 7th of Adar, right? What does the Torah say? She hid him for 3 months. So when's 3 months after the 7th of Adar? Adar to Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, the 6th of Sivan, right? That's 3 months later. What was special about the 6th of Sivan? That was the day Moshe got the Torah. So that was Moshe's special day. It was the day that he was saved, pulled out of the water from Bas Paro. It was the day he got the Torah. But also, let's go backwards. If somebody is born on the 7th of Adar, when was he conceived? 6th of Sivan. So you see that 6th of Sivan has a lot of a semblance, has a lot of symbolism for Moshe Rabbeinu. The day was conceived. It was the day that he was saved. It was the day of Moshe Rabbeinu going up on the Torah, and so on. And oh no, some people say it was Zion, a full 3 months, which is why he pushed the Torah off one day. You know, he pushed it off a day. Some would say he wanted to push it off to the day he was saved so he could have all that symmetry. But anyway, we see a lot of symmetry with Vav or Zion, Sivan, the 3 months, and when he was conceived. So that's just a little symmetry with Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay, the next thing I want to discuss is why Mitzrayim? Why Mitzrayim? We were told in Parshas Lech Lecha, Hashem said to Avram, right? They're going to be enslaved, Gerim first, in a land that's not theirs. They're going to slave them, and oppress them. 400 years. Doesn't say it's Mitzrayim. It doesn't say that it is Mitzrayim. It could have been anywhere. Could have been Syria. Could have been Bavel. So why particularly was Mitzrayim chosen? Now, of course, you can say, well, Yosef ended up there. Okay, but that's how Hashem chose it to happen. But why did Hashem choose Mitzrayim, Egypt, as the place for the Jewish people to endure their gods? Could have been any of the other kingdoms in that area of the world. So what was special, if you say special in a bad way? What was the idea of Mitzrayim that Hashem wanted? Because, right, there was a reason we went into Galus. We had to achieve something. So what was the point of specifically Mitzrayim as opposed to any of the other nations of the world that existed at that time? So in order to answer that question, we have to have a little bit of a background about what Mitzrayim represented, what it represented. And again, we talk about Mitzrayim being evil and wicked and vindictive, but actually they had what they believed was their set of rules that they lived by. And there, just like we said, Sodom was purely capitalist. So Mitzrayim also had their way of life, their shittas hachayim, their view on life, right? Like we have our Yiddishkeit, their Judaism. They had their Egyptian way and their Egyptian culture. So what is it that they believed? So the first thing we have to think about is, what does the word Mitzrayim mean? Mitzrayim has an expression of meitzar, borders, constriction, right? You're closed in, right? And when you keep Shabbos, we're told you get nachla b'li mitzarim, you get an inheritance without borders. What was Yaakov Avinu told? Ufaratsta yama v'keima v'tzafon negba. You'll go north, south, east, and west, which I think is not only a thing telling him about the good times, but it's also the bad times, because now where are we? We're north, south, east, and west, in Australia, Antarctica, all over the place. So it seems to be taken a lot more literally than perhaps Yaakov Avinu thought at the time that bracha was given. So the idea of Mitzrayim is you are constricted. You are boxed in. So boxed in by what? What are you boxed in by? What is the idea? So those are many things I was thinking. If you go through this week's parsha and you go through Rashi, I believe there are several clues as to how we can understand the Egyptian culture. First of all, you can see clearly they believed in A, the power of a predicted future, and B, the power of stargazing. We know that very clearly. Look at why the boys were thrown into the sea, or why they tried to be killed in the first place. Rashi, quoting the Medrash, said the stargazers looked in. They told Paro, oh, we see a boy being born, and he's going to be the one saving the Jewish people. But we also see he's going to meet a sticky end through water. So they believed in stargazing, which obviously means you have to believe in the power of the future and some sort of plan, because if there's no plan and there's no nothing, then what's all the stargazing predicting if nothing is written? So they believe, again, they very much believed in their stargazing. Again, when they left Egypt, what did Paro say? Ru'uki ra'a neged panechem, which again, Rashi quoting the Medrash says there is this bad star, ra'a, this bad celestial whatever, that is going to come down hard on you and shed all your blood. So Hashem said, I'm going to make that blood the blood of the bris milah that they spilled when they did the milah before the Korban Pesach. So again, they predicted, they saw, there's going to be a lot of blood with the Jews there in Mitzrayim. I mean, they got it wrong because they interpreted it wrong. When Moshe Rabbeinu was met his end by water, that was referring to hitting the rock instead of speaking to the rock, the sin that was about not giving the water to the Jewish people that caused him to die. So again, they weren't perfect at it, but they believed in stargazing. They believed in the power of the future. So I believe they were very much like what the Rambam says was the start of idolatry, right? The start of idolatry, according to the Rambam, and I was just looking at it before in Hilchas Avodah Zarah, the first couple of chapters, and this is something that's very much talked about by a lot of Sfarim, and we've discussed this a couple of years ago when it was election time. We had a whole many weeks about the future and predicting how everything comes from Hashem. But there is another view. Chas v'shalom, don't let me think I'm telling you another view. I'm telling you the Avodah Zarah view, and the view that I think was Mitzrayim. And that is, and I think I spoke about this a few weeks ago briefly, there is clearly power that Hashem has given to various forces that we can see in nature, right? First of all, for a simple way of thinking about it, the moon has great power over the earth. It exerts certain pressures for the waves and other things. So there is definitely powers that we can see just by looking, that stars and moons and planets, gravitational pulls, light, all these things that you see have a power over the world. That is simple for us to understand. And then there is a much deeper sense of things I don't really understand with the zodiac, and I think nowadays they call it horoscopes and things, which, even according to many Jewish thinkers, does have power, does have truth to it, right? We have an expression, there's machlokes in the Gemara between Rebbe and somebody else, and I've forgotten. But Yesh Mazel B'Yisrael, is there such a thing as this Mazel controlling Yisrael? Or Ein Mazel B'Yisrael? Or is there no Mazel B'Yisrael? But Rashi, in the Gemara, when he says Ein Mazel B'Yisrael, there is no Mazel B'Yisrael. He says it doesn't mean that there's nothing governing Jewish people, that when you're born, you have your abilities, whatever that means. Eo was talking about, I'm cursed because of the day I was born, that I was born under the star sign of terrible things. Even Rashi says, when it says, Ein Mazel B'Yisrael, it doesn't mean you don't have these forces on you. Says Rashi, it means that through tefillah and masim tovim, davening, and good deeds, you can overcome anything that was written for you. You can supersede what was predicted, what was written in the stars. So you see, in a very basic way, there is this idea that that Hashem has given over control and power over people, over the world, to various sources of energy and power, the stars and the moon and the zodiacs and all that sort of stuff that can exert control over people. And this idea that you're born when Mars is in this thing and this side and the other. And in fact, Rabbi Good, who just happened to throw in that his father was an executioner in the middle of his shir when he was trying to talk about things. The Gemara, what he was trying to reference was the Gemara says, anybody who's born under the star of Mars, when Mars is the red planet, which is blood, says anybody who's born when Mars is in the ascendancy, apparently every hour of the day, every 7 hours, each star gets into its ascendancy and has power and whatever that means. So the Gemara says, if somebody is born under this Madim, this red Mars planet, then it means they're very hot, red, hot-blooded. The Gemara says they should either become a mohel or they should become a shokek, because they spill blood, and you can take out your bloodthirstiness on permitted means. And Rabbi Goodman was saying, and that's why his father became, he just threw it in, an executioner. And we all just fell over. We're like, you can't just throw that line in just as we're about to bench. And Yossi's telling us it's Ma'ariv time, get home with it. And he comes up with this nugget. But you see the idea that even the Gemara talks about there are powers that can exert over people through planets, through stars, through things that are way above my pay grade, things that I don't understand. But we get that idea. That's clear from the Gemara. That's clear from other sources. Like I said, you see with the moon as a gravitational pull. So other things have, however you want to understand it. So that's what Mitzrayim believed in. Meitzar, you were boxed in. You were closed up by whatever was predicted for you. Whatever you were born under, whatever you were predicted, whatever that is you. And there ain't nothing you can do about it. You are boxed in. Meitzar, you can't escape. That's it. End of story. There is no way you are destined to either be good, to be bad, to be evil, whatever it is, to be strong, weak, live however long it is. Whatever life plan is planned for you, tough. That is it. There is nothing you can do to change it. That's what it seems to me from reading these various sources was what Mitzrayim believed in. That's the antithesis of what Yiddishkeit teaches. What does Yiddishkeit teach? As I've said from the Gemaras, yes, there is this idea that Hashem has put in these things, but Hashem is running everything. He can be above it at any time. He can change the course of our lives, public life, the world. That's what Yiddishkeit believes in. Very much so. That's this whole idea. Believing in what Mitzrayim believe in is Avodah Zarah. Even though you might think, well, all these things have powers. You just told me they have powers. Yeah. But you have to believe that we can overcome these powers. There is a point. You're not born. You're not, what's the word? You're not chained. You're not subjected to live whatever life it is. You're not destined to die that way. You can change it through your good deeds, your masim tovim, your tefillos. So I think, in my idea, that's why Hashem chose Mitzrayim, because he wanted to show the Jewish people there are two ways in life. There's the Mitzrayim way, which believes you are chained to who you are, which is what Eoy was talking about. He was cursed because of the day he was born, the way the celestials were. Meitzah, you're trapped. And of course, there's what Yiddishkeit believes in which case we are anything but trapped. We all have the ability to change, to become whatever we want to become. And perhaps that's why we had such a big fight at the end with the 10 Makkos. These all Makkos were most of them were natural things, right? Think about it, right? Blood, right? Water, blood was natural. So much so that the Egyptian, what do they call them? The magicians, right? Because they believe that there are powers, whatever, that you can harness powers of whatever. And there is some sort of koach hatoma, this evil way of doing things, right? That's a natural thing. Frogs are very much a natural phenomenon, right? I have 2 of them in my back garden in a tank that Esty captured, and now I'm feeding twice a week because she's forgotten all about them. And I tell her, see, I told you can't get the dog, but I'd much rather have the frogs, well, toads, than dogs. So frogs are a natural phenomenon. What was next? Lice, right? Also natural. And boils, also natural. Okay, hailstones with fire and water is not natural. That's true. Or wild animals, that's a natural occurrence, right? And then locusts is a natural occurrence. Even darkness, okay, maybe not to the level that the darkness came in Egypt, but that was also something that's, in fact, the Ibn Ezra talks about, he mentions going to London. The Ibn Ezra, in his commentary, when he talks about, because there probably won't be a shir that week because it's Yeshiva week, so I'll probably be no shir, Pashas Bo. He mentions going to London, and he mentions the smogs of London. Now, when I was born already, there was no real smogs, but apparently in the Industrial Revolution and over the ages with all the soot and the steam, apparently there were times that it could get so dark. Now, he's not saying that's what it was in Mitzrayim. He's saying you see this idea that there could be such darkness, thick a darkness that you really can't see anything. And of course, the killing of the firstborns, dying, people being killed, is also a natural thing. So each on their own is a natural occurrence, but it's out of sync with nature because water doesn't all change to blood. And if the Jewish people will take that sip, it doesn't change back to water. That's not natural. Frogs coming out, thousands, millions of them, that's not natural that it comes all at once. And same with the lice, right? The kids get lice, you mix together. But all the adults of the whole Mitzrayim should have lice. That's not natural. And the same with every matter. And I think that's exactly the point. Hashem was trying to show, and that's why we say it in Kiddush on Friday night, the whole idea of coming out of Mitzrayim was, yes, there is nature. Yes, there is power in the world. But who put it there? Who governs it? Who has control? Who can pull the strings? Who has the master key? Who has the cheat codes to override the nature and change it as he feels whatever he wants? Hashem. So he took natural nature occurrences and made them in unnatural ways in order to show I have the power. I can change. So he was a fundamental debate between the Mitzrayim idea of being boxed in, cannot change, and the Yiddishkeit and HaKadosh Baruch Hu know we can change. So that's, I believe, why Hashem chose Mitzrayim of all places to send us to, because he wanted to show us this lesson. I mean, Golos is terrible, but at the end of the day, there's obviously a purpose to it, because if there was no purpose to it, we wouldn't be in it. We wouldn't have to go through it. Some sort of refining process, however, that works. So there's obviously lessons we have to take from it. And the Yidden very nearly succumbed, right? If you look through the Medrash, talks about the Jews were idol worshippers. What does that mean they were idol worshippers? It means they had fallen into the Egyptian belief system. It says if Hashem, we were on the 49th level of spiritual depravity, and if we'd waited, what was it, even one more second, we'd have gone into the 50th level. What does all that mean? Oh, scary, super duper stuff. I think it means in this conceptual idea that we'd so far lost the ability to recognize and realize that Hashem is on top of everything. Hashem is the puppet master. Chas v'shalom to think of it that way, but you get the idea, right? He's the puppet master, pulling all the strings. We've completely lost all of that. That if we'd stayed there any longer, we'd have been beyond hope. But Hashem, through these miracles, he showed us. That's why we had to go through 10 miracles. Because if the Jews had gone out in the first miracle, oh, great. But they may not have had that internalization, that acknowledgement that Hashem controls every aspect of nature. So Hashem had to go through 10 miracles, not just to punish the Egyptians, but to show the Jews this, what you were thinking all this time. You were boxed in by nature and by celestial, what's it called, the zodiacs and all that sort of stuff. No, I control it. I am above it. I can do whatever I wish. And you can come and rise above it through your prayers, through your actions, through your deeds. Nobody is chained to one particular path. Nobody is chained to one particular life, right? We know so many stories of miracles in people's own lives, even people sitting here, how things and through davening and through prayer. And I think that's what Hashem was taking us to Egypt for, to prove us this lesson. And that's why every time we have to say Shema, the mitzvah that we have to, Zochas, got to remember Yitzias Mitzrayim every day. Not just every day, says the Chachamim, morning and night. Remember Mitzrayim day and night. Oh, okay, I remember it. Amalek, remember once a year. Buying for me, I can remember it. Oh, yes. I haven't forgotten, right? Yes, Zecher, yeah. Bakura says it very slowly. Yeah, I get it all. Bang. I haven't forgotten. But yet, Yitzias Mitzrayim, we have to say day in, day out, twice a day. We say it again and again and again. Kiddush, constantly, we say Zecher Yitzias Mitzrayim again. Again, why so many mentions of it? Enough already. Okay, I've got it. I get the idea. Mitzrayim, we left. Got it. Great. I watched the film. When was it? 1957. That film came out, Exodus. No? And I watched the film. I know the story. Yes. We got it. No. We have to internalize again and again and again. Every morning, every night. We came out of Mitzrayim. What does that mean? It means it showed that Hashem is in control. Because we need that lesson constantly, because we constantly feel boxed in. We constantly feel, there's no hope. We constantly feel, there's no change. So Hashem is telling us every morning when we wake up, we start a fresh day. We say to ourselves, Yitzias Mitzrayim. Yes, Hashem is in control. I can achieve anything today. And when we go to bed, we think, what did I achieve today? What did I do? What have I achieved? What's going to be tomorrow? No. You remember Yitzias Mitzrayim, say, okay, today was today, but tomorrow I can wake up anew. Hashem can change things. Things can be different. Things can be whatever I can influence them to be. And that's the message and the lesson, I believe, and the constant reminder of Yitzias Mitzrayim and why Hashem brought us into that Mitzrayim. Let's hope and finish off on a positive note that we've been in Golus now in this wider Golus for 1946 years, and we hope that Hashem will see that we don't need Golus anymore. We don't need exile. We've internalized the messages. We've seen the films. We remember it all, and hopefully He will decide no more Golus, and finally we will be free to express our Yiddishkeit. To express, there'll be no more Havon Yitzchak Malay. Let's deal cunningly with them, plans and United Nations resolutions and all sorts of things that we see today, the same as Mitzrayim, right? They're always trying to come up with subterfuge and things, and the Holocaust, the same ideas. It's all the Jews' fault. Havon Yitzchak Malay. It's the same idea. Let's come and deal wisely. Let's come and make up lies. And the blood libels and everything else we've had to deal with will be over, and we'll come to the Beis HaMikdash in peace and tranquility. Amen. Amen. Okay, so let me end the live video. Give me a second while I try and pull it up. Okay. Nope. Give me a second. I'm trying to bring it up so I can unmute everybody. There we go. Ask to unmute. Now I want to stop the video. I'll wait another few seconds. Apologies about this. There we go. Gone. Sorry, I'm trying to stop the recording. Okay. Give me a second. My phone is now freezing. Maybe I should take it outside, warm it up. No? Okay. Okay, well, it appears you could probably be able to unmute yourselves if you wish, but we are still being recorded and live streamed because I can't seem to turn it off. And I'm supposed to be the younger of the generation, right? I'm supposed to be up with the technology. There we go. There we go. So now we can stop the recording. Stop the recording. There we go. I wonder if I have some dead